Hi guys, today we're going to be learning about multiplying binomials. We did talk about this a couple weeks ago when we were reviewing for our test and there was a problem on there and I went over it very quickly, but I didn't have you guys learn it. Okay, so multiplying binomials, another word that we use is FOIL. So you guys can see that here. But the first thing I want you guys to start off doing is doing just the warm up. Okay, so what you're going to do is just complete them on a paper if you have. I also uploaded this document onto Cami, so if you want to do it on Cami for your notes, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so I'm going to do the first one for you, and then you guys should do the following. Okay, so all we're doing here is distributing. Okay, so we're going to use our arrows, and we're going to distribute. So 2x times x is 2x squared. Then we're going to distribute the 2x to the other term because whatever we do to one term, we have to do to the other, okay? So 2x times positive 3 is a positive 6. So for those, that's all I want you to do, okay? Go over the next one, same thing. Multiply, 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 okay? Remember here that a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'll go over this one because it may be a little confusing for some of you. So negative x times negative x is a positive x squared. Okay, remember that. A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay? And remember here we're adding our exponents when we multiply two x's, okay? Now we have negative x times negative 1, which gets me a positive x. You could put 1x here if you'd like. Okay? And then go ahead and do this last one on your own. Okay? So, when we use distributive property when we're multiplying a monomial by a binomial, so what we're doing is we're just going to multiply two binomials. Okay? So this is a binomial. This is a binomial. Okay? This is a binomial. This is a binomial. Okay? Sound good? Okay, so when those top three, you're multiplying a monomial by a binomial, okay? Now we're just going to multiply binomials. So it's going to be this times this, or this times this. They're going to look like that, okay? The first thing we see, we're going to use the acronym FOIL, okay? FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, and last, okay? So this is important to write down if you have on paper, on your Cami assignment through here, or whatever you may like. We're going to go through the terms and what they mean, okay? So F stands for first, okay? And that means multiplying the two first terms of each parenthesis, okay? And you'll know what that means when we go do an example, okay? So first we have first. We're multiplying the two first terms of each parentheses, okay? Then we go to O, which stands for outer, okay? And this is we're multiplying the two outer terms of each parenthesis. Okay? Oops, I didn't spell that right. My bad. Okay. The next one we're going to go over is I, which stands for inner. Okay. And here we're multiplying the two inner terms of the parentheses. Okay. And then lastly is last, okay? I'm going to write it down here. So last, that is multiplying the two last terms of the parentheses, okay? We will go over this in the examples coming up, okay? So that is what FOIL stands for. First, outer, inner, and last. These definitions, and after the comma, what I wrote is important to help you, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do an example. I'm going to leave that there so we can do the first one and the second one, okay? So I'm going to follow in color the color that I wrote with the F, O, I, and L, okay? So I'm going to do red first because that's the first thing we're going to do. So first, we're multiplying the two first terms of each parenthesis. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pencil and make an arrow from this first term and this first term, okay? Now remember, when you have two variables, you have to add the exponents. In this case, the exponent is just 1, okay? So x times x is x squared. So that was my first thing. So I did the arrow from the first term in the first parentheses to the first term in the second parentheses, okay? Now I'm going to use a blue color to show you my outer terms. So this is considered an outer term, and this is considered an outer term, okay? So it's the outmost terms from the parentheses. So I'm going to draw my arrow from the x to the 1, okay? And x times 1 is just plus x. If you'd like, you could put a 1x there, okay? Now I'm going to multiply my inner terms. So I'm going to use green now. Okay, so now I'm multiplying the two inner terms of the parentheses. So we just did the outside, so now I'm going to do the innermost terms. Okay, so that is a -3. Remember, this negative goes with the 3. Okay, so a -3 times x gets me a -3x. Remember, when you're multiplying any number times just x, that number is going to go in front, and then you're just going to put an x, okay? Then my last two terms, okay? So we did first outer, inner. Now I'm doing the last two terms. So all that means is you're taking the last term of the first parenthesis and multiplying it by the last term of the second parenthesis. I'm going to draw my arrow below, just so you guys can see, but it means the same thing. So -3 times a +1 gets me a -3. Okay, now you're done doing your FOIL, right? You're done foiling. You did all your terms, but you're not done, okay? We need to do one more thing. And what that thing is we have to combine like terms. Okay, we can never just leave the problem looking like this. In this case, my like terms are +1x and -3x, okay? In this case, 1x minus 3x is -2x. Those are the only set of like terms that we have, so you're just going to bring everything else down, okay? And that is your answer. That's how we multiply binomials, okay? That's my answer. Just leave it like that. I'm going to do the same thing with example 2, okay? I'm going to start with my red color, and I am going to multiply my first two terms, okay? So I have -x times 4x. And that gets me a -4x squared. Remember to put that square there. That's important. We have to pretend that there's a little 1 here so we can add our exponents. Okay? All right, now we're going to go and jump to our outer terms. So I'm going to take the outermost term of each parenthesis. So in this case, it's -x and +1. Okay? I'm going to draw my arrow. -x times +1 is a -1x. Then I'm going to go to my green color. Now we're going to multiply our innermost terms, okay? In this case, my innermost term is +7 and 4x, okay? Then we're going to multiply, okay? And that gets me a +28x. 7 times 4 is 28, and we can't forget our x. Okay, last thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply the last two terms of each parenthesis. Okay, so that's +7 and +1. I'm going to draw my arrow under. 7 times 1 is +7. The same thing that we did on the last one, we need to combine like terms. We can never just keep it like this. And I have a -1x plus a 28x. Okay, and that gets me 27x, because we're just taking 1 away from 28. Everything else can just be brought down. -4x squared plus 27x plus 7. And that is my answer. Okay? So all we're really doing is we're foiling, okay? We're multiplying, and then we're just combining our like terms. That's important. We can never just leave the problem looking like this, right? We have to combine like terms, okay? So that's one way to multiply binomials, is foiling. That's the way we first learn. Then we can also do something called the ZBox method, okay? I'm going to put a Z here because I like to call it the ZBox method, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the ZBox method works, okay? Some of you will like this better. Some of you will like to foil better. I do not mind, okay? I do not mind which one you want to do. They both work just as well, okay? So with the ZBox method, what you're going to do is you're going to take the first binomial and you're going to write the terms on the top of the box as so. 2x on one side and plus 5 on the other. Now notice here, I added that plus 5. Those signs have to stay with the number. Okay, you need to put it there so when we multiply later on, you could see. Okay, so then the second binomial, you're going to write on going up and down. Okay, so it's going to say 3x minus 1. Notice how I kept the sign, super important. And then all you're going to do is you're going to multiply. So you're going to go across with your 3x and your 2x, okay? And 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Remember, you have to remember that there is a little 1 after that, right? We have to pretend that there's a parenthesis there. I just want to erase that. I'm sorry, I will draw that again, okay? And then I'm going to put the little 1. Okay, so we multiplied here times here. Now we need to multiply here times here. So 3x times positive 5 is a positive 15x. Now remember, I told you it's important to keep that sign. I will show you when we're done why it's so important to keep that sign, okay? Then we did the top, so now we need to multiply for our next two boxes. So we're going to do -1 times 2x because that's where they meet, okay? So -1 times 2x is just a -2x. Notice how I kept my sign. Super, super important, okay? And then the last box is -1 times positive 5, which gets me a -5, okay? And this is where the Z box comes in. This is where the Z part of the box comes in. I'm going to highlight over, so please don't get confused. What you're going to do is you're going to draw a Z. So you're going to start from the left box, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so you see my Z in the middle there? And what you're going to do is you're going to write it down in the order that you started the Z. So 6x, so 6x squared plus 15x minus 2x minus 5, okay? And then here, all you have to notice is that you need to combine your like terms, okay? So these are my like terms. So my answer is 6x squared plus 13x minus 5, okay? And why I told you up in the box to keep your signs, it's important so when you come down later, you're getting the right answer. Okay, so in this box method, you are not using FOIL because as we put the numbers on the top and on the side, you're just meeting the numbers in the box and multiplying. We're going to do one more on the other side, okay? So the first, drop my pen. So the first binomial always goes on the top, okay? Always. So I'm going to write x minus 5. This always goes on top. The second one always goes on the side, okay? So always goes on the side. 4x minus 2. Notice again, I kept my signs with my numbers, okay? That keeping those negative, that's super important, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and multiply. So I'm going to multiply this term by this term, okay? So remember, we got to pretend that there's a little 1 there so we could add our exponents. And 4x times x gets me 4x squared. Then we're going to come over here and multiply 4x times -5, which gets me a -20x. Okay? Then we're going to come multiply this term by this term, and -2 times x becomes -2x. Important again, look, I kept my signs, right? I keep my signs in my box. Lastly, I'm going to multiply the -2 times the -5, which gets me a +10. Okay, so now we have our box filled. Now we need to draw our Z. Boom, boom, boom. And you're gonna write those numbers down in the order that you wrote the Z. So 4x squared minus 20x minus 2x plus 10. Okay? But remember, you are not done. You have to combine like terms. Okay? And in this case, the like terms are gonna be right next to each other. When we do the box, they're always gonna be right next to each other. Okay? So my end answer is 4x squared minus 22x plus 10. Okay? So that is my answer. That is using the box method. Okay? Now you're gonna come down here, and I want you to go ahead and complete A, B, C, and D on your own. So please pause this video and do it on your own. Then come back and check if your answers are right with me, okay? I will do 2 with the box method and 2 by foiling, okay? So the first A and B, I'm gonna do foiling. So go ahead and please pause this video. You can use either method that you'd like. Pause the video and come back when you're done and make sure you're right, okay? Okay, welcome back. I hope you guys completed those problems pretty well. You can check them now. I'm going to do A and B with the FOIL method and then C and D with the box method. Okay, so foiling, I'm gonna write over here so we remember first, outer, inner, last. Okay, so I'm doing my first terms first. The first 2 terms of each parenthesis. Negative 3x times x gets me negative 3x squared. Then I'm going to do my outer terms, negative 3x times 4. So the outer terms of both parentheses gets me to negative 12x. Then I'm going to do my inner terms, the 2 inner terms of the parentheses, okay? So it's negative 1 times x gets me negative 1x, okay? And then the last 2 terms of each parenthesis, which is negative 1 times a positive 4. Okay, then lastly, all we have to do is combine my like terms, okay, and bring everything else down. This comes down, negative 3x squared minus 13x minus 4. So this is my answer, okay? Going to do the same thing on this side. I'll write it in, so if you guys like it better, I will write it in the colors that I'm going to use, okay? So foiling, I'm using my first 2 terms. So 4x times negative 2x. Super important. Remember, you need to add your exponents here. So 4x, we could put a little 1 if you'd like, and a little 1 if you'd like. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, then x squared, right? X squared, because we have to add our exponents. Then we're going to do the outer terms. So the outer terms of the parentheses, so 4x minus 9 gets me negative 36x, okay? Then I need to do my inner terms. So I have a negative 7 times a negative 2x, which gets me a positive 14x, okay? Then I need to do my last terms. Okay, so my last terms are negative 7 and negative 9. Okay, which get me a positive 63. Okay, then we just need to combine our like terms. Okay, so we have a negative 36 plus 14. How you can remember how to do this is just subtract them and keep the sign of the bigger number. So in this case, the bigger number I see is 36. So I know the number has to be negative. Okay, and that gets me a negative 22x. Everything else is just being brought down. Okay, I'm just going to write it all in one color so it's easier to see. This is your answer. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do my box method. Okay, so I'm going to draw a box to my best of my ability. It's not going to be pretty, I'm sorry. Okay, same thing, I'm going to draw one over here so we already have it. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first binomial, and I'm going to put it up on top. As you can see, I am keeping the signs of each number. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the next binomial and go down the box, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to multiply this term by this term. 9x times negative x gets me a negative 9x squared. Okay, remember we're adding the exponents. Then I'm going to do this term by this term. And a 9x times negative 1 just gets me negative 9x. Okay? Then I'm going to do now I'm going to go down to the second row, and I'm going to do positive 6 times negative x, which gets me a negative 6x. And then the last one is 6 times 1. Okay? And that gets me, 6 times negative 1 gets me a negative 6. Okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and draw my z. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to write it in that order. Negative 9x squared minus 9x minus 6x minus 6. Okay? And then all I need to do is combine my like terms here. Okay? When we have two negative numbers, what you could do is add them and keep the negative. So 9 plus 6 is 15, but we need to keep the negative. Okay? So when you're subtracting two numbers, when you have like a negative 9 minus 6, always remember you could add the two numbers and just keep the negative. Okay? And then the last one that we need to do, I'm going to slide over. Okay? I'm going to take my first binomial and write it on top. Then I'm going to take my second one and write it on the side. Okay? Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply. So this term times this term. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Remember to multiply to add your exponents, okay? Then we're going to go 3x times negative 10, okay? And 3x times negative 10 just gets me a negative 30x, okay? Then I'm going to do the next row, which is 8 times 2x. This gets me a positive 16x. Super important. Make sure you write your signs down, okay? Positive 16x. I want to see the plus sign. I know that we usually don't do that, but when you go and write it down here, it's important to know, okay? All right, so we then can go and do the next one. So positive 8 times negative 10 gets me a negative 80. Okay, then we need to lastly go ahead and draw our z. And we are writing down the terms in how we drew the z. So 6x squared minus 30x plus 16 minus 80. Okay, then we need to combine like terms. And remember, when we have two terms, one's a negative and one's a positive, what you can do is you could subtract them and keep the sign of the bigger number, okay? So in this case, 30 minus 16 is 14x, but 30 is the bigger number, so we're gonna keep the negative with it. And then just bring everything else down, okay? And that would be our answer, okay? So that's what our lesson is on today. You guys are going to complete a maze that I will show you in the next video, so make sure you watch that so you can just see how I complete number 1. Okay, thanks guys. If you have any questions, please let me know.